Welcome back, everybody, to our second game in the lower bracket here, the GCWC at the Water Cube in Beijing. Dignitas, just a few minutes ago, was able to take down CE, and the European team advances, but we have a final Chinese team left here in the lower bracket, and it's going to be SPT that faces off against Fnatic next.
Yeah, and SPT has started to look stronger and stronger, both in the group stage and the knockout phase here as well. Beating Roll20 yesterday with a 3-1 score in the first round of the lower bracket, they're looking mighty strong.
The one thing that I really liked was that when we had Roll20 commit to a G strategy or a very heavy boss push on Warhead Junction, you could really see that the Chinese team did their homework. And to some that might be obvious, where you say, okay, obviously the strategy was shown in the past, so of course they know what's coming their way and they react appropriately. But the same could have been said at BlizzCon, and back then they didn't respect it. This time they were ready for it, and that gives me a lot of hope for just like their growth in particular, since they are definitely putting in the homework and they research their opponent to a degree where they can react to these things.
Yeah, sometimes you see these strategies in different regions, and you can have trouble trying to recognize whether they are seriously good, whether special adaptations need to be made. But they have both recognized that it is good and that adaptations need to be made. And they did so wonderfully yesterday in that final game against Roll20, disassembling this strategy expertly. Now they're going up against Fnatic. They faced them before in the group stage and actually managed to take the second map off of them in a very cool style on Infernal Shrines with ETC, Sonya and Jaina. And you were telling me before, yeah, this Sonya-Jaina style used to be the thing on Infernal Shrines. Yeah. But we're seeing it come back a little bit now from SPT.
At this point, there's actually a couple of really cool moves that we have from all the teams where they, with the new patch, try different strategies and also different hero combinations. And at some point, a lot of the scrims looked like a bit of a throwback even into 2015. So there's some really cool combos that we have coming up. We've seen a lot of Zeratul, for example, combined with or against Tyrael. And right now, I'm just curious to see what the teams are willing to show. Because both of them, of course, want to win this series and might have to reveal everything they have. But at the same time, you know that Dignitas is waiting in the next round. There's still the Koreans to beat. So if you have something hidden, you would love to get out of this best of 5 without revealing anything.
Yeah, right now they're guaranteed top 6, these teams. If you win one match, you're guaranteed top 4. You double the current prize money, going from $20,000 to $40,000. And of course, you have that chance to advance to top 3 and even maybe win that tournament. I spoke to Wubby this morning and he said, you know, once again echoing what we already knew about them, that Dignitas, wrong.
Yeah, I mean, like, the one thing that we have with Dignitas is right now they are pretty eager to actually play against Fnatic. Because the interesting part is that Dignitas so far didn't want to scrim against Fnatic. They had one series against each other, but throughout the entire tournament, both teams have actually only played against non-European teams. So if they face off against each other again in a best of 5, we're going to see how they can react to the other strategies. There's a lot of research going in, but they don't really know where their power level is in relation to each other.
Don't you think that's a little bit unusual that Fnatic and Dignitas are not practicing together? I can remember BlizzCon last year and maybe even the BlizzCon before that, the top European teams were practicing together.
Yeah, I actually think it's a little bit unusual, but it's understandable. I'm pretty sure that once we come back into the HGC NA and HGC EU seasons into Phase 1, Part 1, they are going to scrim against each other again. But I think there's a little bit of a rivalry going on here with them exchanging players, of course, trying to establish who did come out of that roster swap stronger. Right now, Dignitas looks a little bit better. Fnatic openly saying, hey, we need more time, we need to make sure that Benny is comfortable in this position, we need the synergy. But I think at this point there's still a bit of healthy rivalry going on, but they just said, yeah, we have so many good teams here to practice against. We're not losing anything if we don't scrim against Fnatic. So Dignitas just saying we will make sure that we have some strategies that you haven't seen yet.
Yeah, maybe also recognizing that on paper, the top 2 Korean teams are probably seeded. I mean, they're probably the most likely to take top 2, and then the Europeans will be fighting over that 3rd spot. If, of course, Fnatic can make it past SPT. Again, this is on paper, and there may be some surprises still.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious to see what happens there. But again, we are not there yet. We have, first of all, Fnatic going up against SPT. And whereas a lot of people say, okay, Fnatic is the favorite team here, they haven't really looked as stable and solid as you might have thought when you saw the new lineup. So this is definitely something, if SPT gains a bit momentum, they can take a map and also the series. Especially since Fnatic also said, well, we have a couple of maps where we don't really feel too confident right now. We can't ban them all out. So there is definitely a chance that SPT looks strong against us on certain maps. So we have to be a little bit careful that we're not all of a sudden falling behind in the series and then feel more pressure than we should.
And now for SPT, of course, they have the hopes of the Chinese region on their shoulders. We are, of course, here in the Water Cube, the National Aquatics Center in Beijing, and we have this wonderful stage here. But it's only tomorrow that we will first be admitting audience to be witnessing this event here live. And for SPT, in order to play for the home crowd, that would be such a powerful motivator and would be kind of good for the tournament. At the same time, you know, Fnatic is the favorite here.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you feel for the Chinese team and you kind of want them to advance, just simply because you want the Chinese team to be on stage when the crowd finally gets access to the venue. At the same time, a team from our home region currently here in the match, so there's definitely a little bit of small bias, I would say, for the Europeans here. But again, SPT has the tools that they can use to take them down.
And they've done so once so far. ETC, Jaina, Sonya was their combination to defeat Fnatic once, and they used it again against Roll20. Winning one game is not a pattern, but once you see it come out for the second time, that should be constituting a pattern. And since it is a best of 5, it is fairly likely that Infernal Shrines will be coming back again, and it's just one of SPT's special weapons, so Fnatic should be aware of this.
Yeah, the last one on the screen here that we just saw, also Soap from SPT, and he's also known at the player area as the Pizza King, because whenever the teams come back from their games here, all catering is already done, and immediately they turn to Soap. Since he has basic English, he is always happy to order for the Western players in particular. So currently I think every single evening he orders like 20 pizzas for Dignitas, for Fnatic, and also for Roll20. So that earned him a bit of a new nickname. But of course here in the game, his ordering skills are not really required. More so we need to see how he can impact the game itself. Dragonshy is going to be our first map. It's the map choice of SPT. They banned out Tomb. Fnatic got rid of Warhead. And Dragonshy is a map where Fnatic didn't really excel over the last few days.
Yeah, from the looks of the win rate, neither team really has so far. We've often been calling Dragonshy a map that is heavily favored in the Chinese region because they like to leverage a kind of 3-man power. Traditionally, it used to be that Tassadar, Vala, Ariel, but also just heavy wave clears to control the map has been popular. We saw that until Dignitas flipped the kill switch just now in the previous series with Tracer, Poik, popping off on some kills. We had CE doing very well indeed, up until level 12 onwards, before they started falling behind. So maybe a heavier wave clear focus is also in the cards for SPT.
Yeah, the one thing that Fnatic has identified for themselves is that they feel SPT relies heavily on the Haka in a very early rotation on this map, and usually tries to go for those double support compositions a lot. We've seen that reflected in their drafts, as already mentioned before. They actually played a fair amount of games here, but they lost nearly all of them. But this is something that Fnatic is well aware of, and it's something that they're currently thinking about. Do we pick the Haka away from them? Are we actually willing to maybe even sacrifice a ban, or do we just simply let it go through? So this is one of the key strategies that they have identified of SPT, and where they say we might actually target that.
Yeah, so everyone doing their homework here, of course. In terms of meeting SPT, do you think Fnatic is a little surprised that SPT made it past Roll20? They had the same points total, Roll20 and SPT. But if I'm not mistaken, Fnatic was preparing for Roll20, recognizing maybe that they will win the series. Fnatic
actually thought that, well, they were hoping for SPTs. They were hoping to face SPT over Roll20 because they said they're a little bit more predictable. At the same time, when asked about the power level, they said it's basically a toss-up. It's not that we think we can beat SPT so much easier than Roll20. It's basically that they're even, but we think the playstyle that SPT shows is a bit easier for us to approach. So that was the thought process there. They watched the games, of course, and did the research here. But SPT looked strong, and it's always that question, did NA just have, again, a bad day where they couldn't commit? In the last map, resorted to that push strategy that we talked about, to that cheese, but SPT looked solid on that day, and arguably better than today CE did.
Yeah, 3-1 victory there. And now as we are starting to look, we're going into that Dragonshy. We're going to have Fnatic with the first ban and first pick. So the Dahaka, which you said SPT leans on in order to control this map. We'll see if that comes out. From Fnatic's side, how do you think they'll approach it?
I would actually think that at this point we're going to see probably SPT banning out ETC. Fnatic most likely is going to head into a ban on Tassadar. There's of course a couple of options where they can deviate from that strategy, but I think in the first game they're not going to go too crazy. I would be very surprised if SPT allows ETC to go through here. But then again, the Haka is really what's going to be the first small indicator of how much the teams are willing to adjust their own draft in order to make sure that the opponent is maybe having the weaker draft here. Fnatic with the Tazada ban is expected. Now do we see SPT here go for the ETC ban, or are they switching it up?
Now yesterday against Roll20, SPT on Dragonshire used a Dehaka Lucio rotation on the first 2 pick slots while banning away ETC.
That's the interesting part. If they let ETC, for example, go through and would allow Fnatic to take the hero, they could go for the exact same rotation again, and then Fnatic would have to decide if they want to take ETC for a breeze, or if they just simply say Lucio and Dehaka is going to have way too much of an impact for our opponent's team. We would rather let ETC go here.
Fnatic continues to employ the ban strategy of limiting draft possibilities, keeping it a bit more simple and straightforward, just like Dignitas and even some other teams. Tassadar and Abathur often go on the chopping board.
Alright, and Uberak banned over ETC, so now for Fnatic the question, what are they going to do here? How do they adjust? Are they heading into a Dehaka, or are they simply saying, well, if you leave ETC up for us, then we can get Breeze on the hero and all of a sudden adjust our own style? And Uberak, of course, is also a great pick here, a great ban, since all the teams here have shown incredibly aggressive play, especially when they pair Uberak with an additional stun and then throw Greymane into the mix for burst damage.
But
so
the interesting thing here is that the ETC would seem so obvious.
Yeah.
Because you ban an Uberak, and so Fnatic has to answer the question, what are you hoping to achieve here? Which free 2 picks are you hoping to get? And maybe it is that Dehaka. And now with the ETC not being picked, and Fnatic going with Dehaka, I wonder if SPT's strategy is a little bit foiled, or if they'll still be happy with the other choices, for example ETC and Lucio.
They definitely are taking their time when it comes to picking and also banning. That first ban took a long time here, so there's a lot of thought process and mind games heading into the first picks and bans on the first map. And again, it's a lot momentum based. Fnatic said this is the map that they probably right now feel the least comfortable. So if they would take the win here, then I think for them that would already indicate, okay, this is going to be our game. Because they said, well, if you lose on Dragonshire, not ideal, but that is something that they can absolutely work with, where they say, okay, this is more or less something that we thought it could be hard for us, just simply because right now on the map we're actually not as good as we want to be.
Either way, I must say, I'm not expecting a clean 3-0 by either team here, as we saw in the previous series by Dignitas against CE. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than that. Genji and ETC are coming out, so we do see that ETC for SPT. No support pick yet.
I would actually expect Lucio to be taken up by Fnatic now. Lucio has been on this map in particular constantly one of the great hero supports for the quick rotations, the sound barrier in team fights, and against Genji the argument of sound barrier against Dragonblade is of course still a strong one. You can also bully ETC a little bit more than other heroes can. So right now this is something where I would expect that they pick at least ETC, and then it's Lucio, and then it's a question, are we going to see a Greymane with that, or what are they heading into?
Lucio for those rotations. Could be a Greymane, could be an Arthas, Vala, some of the better choices potentially. Fnatic needs a lot of time here.
Both they really take their time. Lucio and Muradin. Alright, there we go. So at this point, again, very rotation heavy. Lucio can speed all of this up a little bit. The Stormbolts on Muradin are going to be the setup, but they still need, of course, the damage coming out of it. And SPT, I mean, now we're heading into the ban. So first of all, again, for me it becomes a question of how do we react with Greymane and potentially Vala here. What's going to be the damage dealers? For example, SPT simply relying on themselves picking up Greymane, banning out another auto attack damage dealer, since Fnatic could very well head into that double support solo hyper carry setup, and probably will.
For SPT, what would really fit them is an Uther pickup for now. Not so much to counter damage type, we don't know what Fnatic is going to be running yet, but to pair up with ETC and Genji would be quite a strong combination. Wonder if Fnatic will be looking to remove that Uther, or maybe removing the Abathur after all, as Abathur Genji remains a very serious threat, and it fits the ban pattern by Fnatic so far in this tournament.
I think actually Fnatic gets the chance they would pick Uther, because it fits really well against Genji now too. But the problem that they have is that SPT has the next double pick after the ban phase.
Right.
So I agree with you 100%. If SPT gets the chance to go for Uther, they should definitely do that. So for Fnatic, that would be a good ban.
But there's a difficult choice here between Uther and Abathur, two probably the most compelling bans. And Genji is going to be removed. Now Fnatic can try to abuse an Uther pick with poison and spread damage. This gets mentioned a lot, but in practice I don't think it's actually as powerful as in uncoordinated matches, because people generally try to avoid taking meaningless poke damage. Fnatic could be running Gul'dan or Chromie to try and deal with that. SPT? Will they pick up that Uther? Maybe even flex another support later on to deal with potential poison damage coming out? I feel like SPT has a very good draft thing going on for now.
Yeah, they definitely do. They need to, of course, think about the globals as well. So we might see them head into even Arthurs to combine that with ETC and rotate ETC to the solo lane after level 10 with Stage Dive as a global to mirror the Haka's movements. It's a bit of a choice of what they want to go here. They banned out Falstad already, so it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to react to this. Uther would be great for them, for sure. They could go into Greymane, they could go into second tank already and leave the damage open for a bit longer. Both of the teams have a very solid foundation for this.
Yeah, I think Uther Arthas or Uther Greymane would both indeed, like you said, be amazing choices. They're going to go with the Vala Uther. Great choice, really. Really a preferential thing here, I guess, for SPT.
And they leave Greymane open, so Fnatic is most likely heading into Greymane first of all, and then the question still remains, are they committing to a second support, yes or no? We've seen a lot of the teams dabble more and more in the solo supports right now, and successfully at that. Even with Lucio as a solo support, relying heavily on his heal over time and also the quick rotations to get an early lead. And that's something that Fnatic could still do here.
I think it makes sense to run the solo support here. If you show proper discipline in choosing the fight, that should be enough. Sound Barrier to deal with the Dragon Blade. We could see that cool Dragon Claw level 4 talent by Genji coming out in order to try and force Sound Barrier before the Dragon Blade gets activated, as we saw once before from Ballistics, I believe SDE. Fnatic has to make that choice now. Greymane seems obvious, but is it going to be another damage or another support?
I mean, they could also, Li Ming would, for example, be another hero that they could utilize here if they wanted to. They have played a lot of games with her just recently and always seem to have a huge impact. And they actually go for her. So they go for the mage, gonna drop her in. And so far, I feel they pretty much got what they wanted here. But SPT is also a very strong draft, so both of the team walk away with a composition that really works well for them.
Now, is it going to be another support or another damage? Is it going to be full aggression? Gilnean Cocktail Poke as well as Li Ming's spells could be a problem for Uther to try and out-heal, but the real point here for SPT is to have pretty good to decent wave clear and to have very bursty, sudden fights. They're not going to want to let it get to that point, and so far they have what they need for that.
I was actually wondering a bit earlier if they would go for Brightwing here and try a dive bomb with Genji, going in, portaling on Genji after the Swift Strike and trying to get the isolation with Brightwing.
Brightwing or Arthas, both great choices here.
Yeah, the problem with Brightwing still is that wave clear is a bit of an issue compared to a second frontliner, so that's definitely a concern. They still need someone to deal with the top lane, I feel. I'm not sure if Brightwing is really the answer there. She just can't meet the Haka's wave clear on that lane.
It could be Arthas, Sonya, Brightwing. It's going to be Karazim. Will be that second support with a bit more damage. Wave clear okay at level 13 when you take the extended deadly reach rotation. A lot of Iron Fist punches to deal with wave clear. Overall, it's going to be down to mostly Vala to do the wave clear. Not too bad, not too great wave clear by SPT. It looks like Fnatic is a bit stronger in that regard. And SPT is a bit more focused towards the kill comp. In order to get ahead anywhere from level 1 to 10, probably SPT will need to look in that takedown department more so than Fnatic. The burden seems to be on SPT to make something happen in that way.
Yeah, I would agree. They need to be aggressive and get kills for themselves, but I'm not sure if that's going to be really easy, since Fnatic is of course expecting exactly that. And from a wave clear perspective, their own composition is quite strong, and they have a lot of one-shot potential here as well, especially after level 10 when we have potentially Cursed Bullet for Greymane. But even without it, if Li Ming gets a decent combo off and then Greymane jumps in after a nice lockdown from her, then you can blow most targets on the side of SPT away. So it really comes down to who flips the switch, who's able to approach a team fight, who gets the flank here, and execution is going to matter. And that's why I'm a little bit afraid for SPT, because I can see them forced to react to Fnatic, since the wave clear of the European team is just a tiny bit better.
Yeah, exactly. That is difficult indeed. Had they had the freedom of wave clear, they could send Karazim and Genji top to bully the solo laner a little bit. But now they might be under more pressure, to the point where they may not be able to do that. We'll see. Game 1 of this match is about to be underway on Dragonshire.
Yeah, most of the time Fnatic currently is scrimming with KSV Black. KSV Black has actually a pretty insane scrimming schedule. They are scrimming every day, whoever can get their hands on. Of course, had a bit of a break here and want to prepare as much as they can for their series against Ballistics that we're going to see tomorrow. But that allows Fnatic and Dignitas and all the other Chinese teams as well to scrim against the best team in the world right now and really try their strategies, see if it's something that they can pull off against the best and how they have to rotate. It's really interesting when you hear teams try and coordinate a little bit better how they rotate on the map. Just always trying to find maybe something where they can shave off 1 second. Clear the wave with 2, then rotate to a certain position, just be a little bit faster. And if you reach the position on the next lane faster, you can set the trap up in the bush, hope that your opponent rotates in and plays it a little bit too greedily. And that constant communication here just shows that every single team, not only Fnatic, but Dignitas in particular as well, are really trying to make small adjustments in the way that they play the map to give them the opportunity to create more opportunities to get a kill, and thanks to those kills ahead.
If Fnatic can focus their gameplay around capturing bruiser camps, either their own side or the middle bottom, that would be a great way for them to create space to prevent the kill comp of SPT to get some kind of space to find kills, because several members will need to respond to a bruiser camp every time if Fnatic takes one, as most of the members of SPT doesn't have a great way to deal with that. It's really only Vala, Monster Hunter, Hungering Arrow that can deal with that quickly.
Exactly, you can throw Kharazim in to an extent, but it's just not the same. Fnatic has way more in the department, but they also need to utilize it properly. If they are able to get that advantage over SPT, it should be a game where they at least make the opponent react. But SPT has shown some very aggressive stances in the series against the opponent Roll20, so this aggression, this is something that we are mostly looking out for from the Chinese team, to see if they can pressure Fnatic enough to force mistakes out of the Swedish team.
This poor fisherman doesn't know what is about to break down in Dragonshire, as we've got this game going under its way. Here in the blue on the left we've got Fnatic, and in the right of course SPT.
Do you think he cares?
He seems to be happy with what he does.
Yeah, and that's all that really counts. You need to be happy in life, and he made a great choice here. It's also very entertaining. I mean, you have a lot of fights here, you have dragons, and you can't beat dragons, let's be serious.
What is that dragon's talent, by the way? He went for the Cyber Agility 6-second 25% bonus mobility. Whenever he jumps over a wall, he has 25% bonus move speed for a while. No one ever picks that, really. Interesting. And ETC goes down.
That was not quite the start that they were hoping for here. Yeah, SPT definitely not off to the start that they were envisioning, but what you say about Genji is pretty interesting here, because you're absolutely right. It's not a talent that we see a whole lot. Pathfinder. And let's see how the rest of the build is going to shape up, because I had a few of the Chinese teams, but when I observed them and they started their scrims, they actually mispicked talents at the beginning. And not saying he did, but we can look at the comp later and see if it still makes sense here. But that occasionally happens, even on the pro level.
Nice zoning there by Smexy. These Lucios have been getting more and more cheeky in this tournament. We saw it last game already from Dignitas there.
Yeah, good example, by the way, with Mispick Talents was Quacknix when he was playing Cassia, and on 13 did not go for the cooldown reduction, but for the slow on her Q.
Ah, so that was a mistake.
Yeah, it was a misclick on his part, and he talked about it then later on. So it happens every now and then. Not very often, but every now and then also a pro gamer misclicks with a quick hotkey and gets the wrong talent and has to deal with it now.
I'm glad you tell me. I was going to copy that build. Oh, Quacknix build, new one, special. Hey, might be good. You probably put a lot of research into it.
You still can, and if you do, then feel free to blame him if you lose.
Alright, SPT now with the laser channel taking control here of this bottom lane.
Yeah, so right now SPT has the double control. Min in the mid lane should have no problems to actually interrupt any kind of channel attempt by SPT. But still, up to the top lane, the Haka now has the field once again down to the bot lane. We're not seeing too much happening, as right now the Shrine is still fully in the hands of the opponent. But if Genji falls, and indeed he does, then of course SPT is going to lose that position on the map that they fought for.
Yeah, great Stormbolt there by Breeze, confirming the kill. That's the second takedown in favor of Fnatic. And now on Vala. Stormbolt hits. Thunderclap procs on Vala.
Yeah, also on Soap, and both go down. Oh my god, like that was brutal. The body blocks are also solid. That's gonna be a triple kill, and just like that, Fnatic walks away with 5 kills to 0 in the early game on Dragonshire, the map where they were most afraid of that SPT would walk away with a victory.
Beautiful execution here by Fnatic as Breeze jumps in, tries to zone away Misaka from the Dragon Knight, but good job by Melody C. He's back already, and he captures that top shrine.
And in the meantime, Breeze is just stacking his Q and Muradin even more, but that experience is just something that really frightens me a bit for SPT. They have mobility on the map with Genji in particular, but also Karazim that allows them to put the pressure onto the shrines, but now that they're starting to fall farther and farther behind in experience, and now that they're under pressure with the rotations that Fnatic is setting up, they will lose the control of those shrines fairly soon, and once Fnatic hits level 7, that is a power spike that is extremely dangerous for them to face off against.
Yeah, in the meantime, Fnatic is setting up, grabbing the siege camp, providing some pressure at the bottom lane. SPT belatedly doing the same there with Vala and Karazim. They capture that camp as well. It can be an advantage to grab your siege camp second, because it'll push after you clear the opponent's siege.
Yeah, the level 7 for Fnatic is going to be pretty big. Calamity alone is already a huge tool in the hands of Mena now. And of course, next to that, we also have Muradin with the extra damage. And they were already scary before, just simply by combining any kind of CC with the Li Ming combo and the damage output from Greymane in particular. Now Li Ming also has Calamity, and once the resets are started to kick in, Mena is not going to pass up on any opportunity to just jump from target to target and try and confirm additional kills.
SPT decides to continue to use Genji for the solo lane. Definitely a losing lane against the Haka, but it may actually show that that level 1 talent was on purpose as well, because he's going to keep jumping over the shrine, steal away the shrine. Even though he cannot out-wave clear the Haka, he can then use the movement speed in order to get away from some kind of ganks.
And he made adjustments now in level 4 with the Shuriken Mastery as his talent, and the dodge on 7 is going to help him also a lot if he just wants to go in and take position. But at the bot lane, we have once again a nice cleanse here on Misaka, but ETC is still in trouble, and here comes the speed boost from Lucio. Smexy is not going to let ETC get away here, and that is kill number 6 in favor of Fnatic.
A great body blocking by Mena as well, using the light wizard body there of Li Ming to block the half cow of ETC, and he definitely zoned him out away from that. Good job using Calamity finally to finish him off.
Yeah, good damage against Greymane. Quacknix needs to be careful, and here comes the kill.
Nice job by Soap.
The Pizza God goes in and confirms it. Mena barely getting out of here as well, but with that kill against Greymane, Fnatic of course has to retreat, and SPT is now once again in control of both shrines. The Haka already on the way top, but there needs to be an interrupt, and there is none.
Very nice job by SPT. It was really the difference of a frame or two as Wooby on the Haka. No, sorry, not Wooby. I keep thinking of Wooby in Fnatic. It's been there for so long. As of course, Bad Bunny on the Haka almost stole back that North Shrine. But SPT just gets the Dragon Knight. Don't get too much out of it though, so far.
And it's an easy mistake to make. I always make it when I see the mage play on the side of Dignitas, and it's like, man, what are you doing? And it's like, oh, wait a second, that's actually not him. So yeah, it's still pretty new, the lineups, and if you have casted those teams for 2 years with certain players just being more or less the representatives for the teams, then it's pretty hard to shake that off. But SPT, in experience, is starting to make their way back into this. The Dragon Knight, thanks to the kill against Greymane, was absolutely fantastic for them. They even hit level 10 before Fnatic does.
Yeah, good job by SPT removing the middle towers as well and the fountain. This will give Fnatic no way to easily soak experience. They lose out on a bit of vision in the middle as well, making traps a little bit more hazardous. Not going to be cycling that Dragon Knight around to try and do a similar thing in other lanes. Just incremental damage on the mid fort. But now, heroics are available. ETC is holding his heroic to hide it for as long as possible. Will it be the Mosh? Will it be the stage dive? I think Mosh, but there is no reason to pick it early. As long as you are mechanically sound enough to pick it right before using your desired heroic.
There's also a lot of interrupts against it, so he has both options open for himself. Fnatic is still in, now we had that talent signaling that they are looking for a one-shot. That of course happens again against Palm and Divine Shield, but you still trade cooldowns up if you only commit to the bullet early on. So that's something that they're going to try and hope for, that they can go for a target. They use the bullet on Greymane, bait out either Palm or Divine Shield, ideally even both, and then they simply retreat and reset, wait for the cooldown to come back and engage again. So there's currently 3 tools that SPT can use. That's the Cleanse that is going to be available, the Hand of Protection on the side of Uther, and of course then Palm and Divine Shield. Yeah,
and it is going to be that stage dive. You mentioned Fnatic has a lot of interrupts. It's true, 4 of the heroes that they have can interrupt Mosh. Despite the Cleanse on Uther and Divine Shield, not going to be going with the Mosh. You could do the Divine Mosh combination, but that is a double no damage heroic that would then need to be heavily capitalized on.
Benny going in, going for the drag, but Divine Shield being used by Uther to dodge it. So in this case, Isolation being used, drag being tried, but we see SPT walking away from it. The cooldown trade, on the other hand, working in favor of Fnatic.
Yeah, of course, Isolation was missed in the top lane before in order to try and get a kill, but I would say 99% sure Dragtongue would have hit ZZH there.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely agree with that Divine Shield usage if you want to prevent the first death of potentially many. So he just played it safe. Now SPT will need to continue playing it safe without that cooldown available.
Yeah, so right now level 13 is what both teams are looking for, and it's again even. It's not quite what I expected SPT to pull off after they lost so many heroes in the early game, but they are playing this really well. Misaka now also eating a bit of cocktail damage, but still well played here. Immediately when he sees Muradin, goes for the face melt, pushes him back and makes sure that the Stormbolt does not hit.
And the fact that the XP is so even despite a 6 versus 1 takedown record goes to show that SPT has done a great job, specifically with that single kill there below that got them the Dragon Knight. It was a big risk to send Genji all the way from the top lane down to get that kill on Quacknix before, and it gave them the DK and the XP equality. Genji, who had been the solo laner before, because of his great escape and jumping over walls, has now been added to the 3 to 4 man. Now it's ETC with stage side. And level 13 apiece. Great job by SPT, making it so even, and they're now starting to apply serious pressure. Now the Haka, Bad Benny, is very near, so is Greymane.
And SPT needs to apply pressure. They have currently the synergy on ETC with the 4 and the 13, so they will have a lot of cooldown reduction to get those additional face melts in. That will create a ton of space, for Vala in particular. So it's all about allowing her to get the damage in, and then ideally Genji makes his move as well. But right now, SPT has once again forced a very advantageous position for themselves. They're looking at a potential Dragon Knight. Fnatic has to posture up in the middle, but they have to Haka at the top lane, stealing one of the shrines away so that they can relieve the pressure.
Yeah, good job, Bad Benny. He doesn't even complete the entire channel, wants to instead apply top lane pressure, as all the teams had to converge to try and deny or take that Dragon Knight.
It should be nearly impossible for SPT to kill Breeze. Muradin is in a fantastic spot. There is very little at this point that can really threaten him. If he goes for healing static, gets a bit support from Lucio, and also commits to Avatar. So they need to try and find a different target. They did really well earlier, obliterating Greymane. But right now, the tank Breeze should be fairly safe, since there is no 7-sided on the side of SPT.
Yeah, in the previous series that Fnatic played, Muradin Breeze even went for Stone Form at level 16, not getting that heavy impact. Really one of the most safe sustain Muradins in the world, Breeze. Also always favoring that third wind instead of that perfect storm. Plays it very safe. Wants to absorb as much damage as he can. But SPT is starting to crawl a little bit ahead. It goes almost beyond belief that with the takedown record like that, and with the wave clear being what it is, SPT pulls ahead. Just good rotations, making use of the stage dive rotation and some vanilla pushes that they have done, like when they got the Bruiser Camp bottom and took down the bottom fort.
It's a little bit reminiscent of what we've seen when Fnatic played against KSV Black, because when you looked at the kill record, it was a very one-sided game, but kills is not what wins you the game, it's if you take down the opponent's core. And SPT, in terms of experience, does really well. They hold on to all 3 forts. And Fnatic has already lost one at the bot lane, and there's a push at it their way. But now they're trying to go for the kill. Palm being used, not procced on the other hand. Breeze missing the Stormbolt makes it a bit difficult to lock SPT down, especially since they still have their fort and therefore a safe path to retreat.
Yeah, that was Uther's Cleanse, Divine Palm and Deflect at the same time. Big panic moment there as Genji did not use shurikens to check the bush, got caught by Bad Benny's Drag Tongue. Great accuracy and a big threat. But they stay alive. Palm will be back fairly soon. Definitely the better hero to use over Divine Shield. Now Breeze, keep in mind he has Avatar. He might have to use it now.
Yeah, and does. Nice dodge, but that is a little bit too much. 5 versus 1. As I said earlier, they have a rough time killing him, but if they find a 5 versus 1 opportunity, that kill is still going to happen.
It was a really good job, saving Avatar for as long as he did. Then he dodged the power slide, but Genji came in. Now, Muradin didn't quite have time to use a Thunderclap once in order to get a bit of healing from that healing static, but in the end, yes, it was a 5 versus 1. Support wasn't near enough. Fnatic lose a member. And SPT starting to pull further and further ahead. Yeah, exactly. Fnatic is not only losing a member, Fnatic is currently losing their position on the map and the control of the game. SPT is doing this extremely well here. We have ETC now with Clockwork completed 2. That helps in the team fight significantly. And that level 16 power spike is something that Fnatic doesn't really want to face. Breeze just came back, so he's not in the fight. And they have to give up another Dragon Knight. Man, SPT is showing up very impressive here. The last hope of the Chinese region here in the first map against Fnatic is doing a great job. Starting to push that mid forward. Now they've got two options. They can go top or bottom. If they go top, it's going to be a kind of SPT 5-man up there. But if they go bottom with the Dragonite, they can try to use that distraction and to have the other 4 members push at the top. But they're going to converge. This is going to be a 5-man. Meanwhile, Genji, Melody C poking away on the left side, trying to delay rotations and get some crucial scouting information as well.
Yeah, a lot of this will come down to the positioning in the fights. If Fnatic can get a setup that flanks, especially Vala, for example, that would be fantastic for them. But there's so many tools on the side of SPT here. And right now that Dragonite is doing a lot of work, taking down structures, taking down the fort in the mid lane, demolishing the towers up at the top. And that translates into more and more experience for the Chinese team. And Fnatic has said, this is a map where they don't really feel comfortable on, where they say, well, this could be rough for us. It's the map where we are the most afraid that SPT could take a victory. And so far, SPT is, again, they are doing well.
Yeah, it's so interesting that they've got to this point without using a single Dragon Blade so far.
Yeah, the interesting part though is that now in 16 it's a massive power spike for Fnatic. You have Lucio's heal increased, we have the Alpha Killer on the side of Greymane, and also Mirror Ball for Mena. So the damage output in the one-shot becomes even stronger than it was. It's just a question, can they create that opportunity?
Murden has gone for the imposing presence. Bit of an overlap with this W, you might think, but you can just save it. There's a little bit of auto attack reduction when people attack him, and you can also activate it to slow their movement and their attack speed even more. And not getting stone form this time, so it can be quite nice against the heavy melee composition of SPT. Turn on that imposing and provide a little bit of extra CC, keeping Li Ming more safe, for instance.
SPT by now nearly an entire level ahead, and once more they orchestrate a great push at the top lane with the Night Camp that they took. So this is going to cost Fnatic another fort. And SPT is getting closer and closer to the Storm Talons. Fnatic has finally decided that they need to do something about it, so they went down to the bot lane and said, let's rush the fort, make sure that we get at least some damage, and ideally take it down. But here comes ETC. Now we have the bullet attempt. They're moving in for it. But immediately we have cleanses being used. Also the cleansing touch on Karazim once more confirmed, so that ETC can move out. A lot of heals coming out of them. Melody C playing with fire here. If he gets hit by a Stormbolt or a Drag, he will die.
But I love that stage dive so much by SPT. It's, you know, even though it looks like nothing happened, something definitely did. The Bruiser camp was not cleared yet by Bad Bunny. They forced the global on the Haka. This is a bit risky though by SPT. As much as I like the other move, creating space up on the top lane, SPT now takes a big risk. All 5 members are here. They actually get away with the Bruiser camp, and Fnatic is not punishing. Wow.
I would be surprised if Fnatic is not trying to take that fight here. They have all their cooldowns at this point.
Yeah, the stage dive isn't available. You've got negative map pressure. You linger around, but you don't collapse on someone in that location. I'm pretty surprised about that one.
Yeah, me too. It feels a bit like they're intentionally trying to play for 20, but no, now they take the fight. They jump in, they like that position a little bit better. Breeze commits to the Avatar. Rain of Vengeance comes in again. Manticore and Vala putting the pressure on him. Didn't go for the frost shot here, but it's only a quick exchange in cooldowns and in advantage of SPT.
Nice.
He's committed to the Avatar.
Nice shots there with the mirror ball hitting Genji. In the meantime, 1 tower, almost 2 taken out by SPT. Great to take those fights when you have positive map pressure. SPT forcing the Haka to rotate. Now finally, Fnatic fanning out again. But it looks like Fnatic is playing so reactively to SPT, who has taken full control of the game.
Yeah, the level 20 talent is something that that worries me for the European team, and SPT is going to look to exploit this. They have done really well whenever they had an advantage here, and they're going to do the same thing once they hit level 20. They're going to take the Storm Talons, rotate to the Shrines, and then force another Dragonite. And with Fnatic losing all forts, the next Dragonite would aim for keep, at least. If they can get a few more kills, then they could even try and knock onto the core. So that's something that Fnatic has to be very aware of, and either they have to force a fight before 20, or they have to try and get the experience. But right now, it's actually their opponent that tries to go in. Here comes the kill against Breeze. He jumps out. Can he survive?
Breeze, Dragon Blade gets turned on. Divine Shield as well. That's the beginning of the Dragon Blade. There's more pain to come for Fnatic as SPT take out Breeze. It looked like they had a great one-shot on ETC. He stage dived in, hit 1 or 2 people. In comes the Cursed Bullet. All that damage, but he kept alive at 20% HP. The Divine Palm looked like it was coming out as well, and yeah, here we go. Fnatic loses Breeze. Now they're down a full level against the Dragon Knight. This should be keep and potentially even more.
Yeah, he didn't have Avatar ready. It was on 17 seconds on the cooldown, and that is what SPT exploited here. Great play by them. And they just make sure that Fnatic doesn't get any kills anymore. Palm, Divine Shield, there's way too much tools available for SPT, and that's why Mena doesn't get any resets right now.
And Qianxia with that Farflight Quiver, that bonus range with the Manticore, putting so much pressure there on Bad Penny, who has to burrow to try and stay alive. But Genji finishes him off. SPT get another kill. Breeze is back, but no level 20 yet.
Not sure they can end here.
If they leverage Vala's range and keep poking slowly, and I don't think there is any pressure, wait for the next minion wave, I think they can.
It's going to be a slow one though. Breeze once again going in, so the SPD needs to be careful here. They have that 20 now, so if they get another kill, it's over. But it's a very slow process at this point. And here comes once again the range in. Also ETC in the background. Nice damage in the core, down to 60. Great palm again. Uther down, but he has redemption. ETC jumps in, and SPT is trying to connect here. Fnatic doing whatever they can to protect it. They get the kill against ETC, but that is not the kill they want.
Great choice by SPT going for the core like this. Almost losing Vala there, but a great Divine Palm. Uther goes down, but he had redemption. He came back to life, giving him 5 pulses of healing from beyond the grave. And that for SPT was the moment to pull the trigger entirely. They had already been starting this slow siege, but they went for it fully and wholly, got the final 50% on the core, and definitively went for it. Great game by SPT.
I like that they played it slow, because when they started to approach aggressively and try to rush it down, I was really looking at it, it's like, if you try to right-click this and just burst it, you are going to get wiped here. But then they played it smart. They pushed back, they waited for Fnatic to move in, because Fnatic had to apply pressure. But every single time they moved out, Breeze was attacked, the Haka was attacked. So SPT, after a pretty bad early game, turns it around, uses every single opportunity they have, and take the game off Fnatic. Which means now that Fnatic has to show that outside of Dragonshire, they're really the team that can win the series.
Yeah, you mentioned that Dragonshire is the map that Fnatic felt the least comfortable on, even to the point where if they were to win it, they would feel like the series was going to be a lot easier. So, at least for their part, they wouldn't be too shocked losing this first Battleground.
Yeah, I mean, you're never happy losing a map, and especially when you have a 6-0 lead in kills and then give control away. But I really think that having a lack of resets for Mena played a huge part in this. With all the defensive tools that we had on the side of their opponent, of SPT, the Palm, the Divine Shield, it was just so tricky, even for the one-shot combo with Li Ming and Greymane after ETC dove in. So it was well played by SPT, and a great draft to just absolutely negate that strength that Fnatic had in theirs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reminded of that Dragonshire game of KSV Black versus Fnatic, where Fnatic was ahead in kills 12-1 and lost the game with 1 keep versus something like 5 forts. That Tyrael gameplay from KSV Black. Uther gets the MVP here, but really I feel like even someone like Genji, who has been solo and double laning, not with the best wave clear, but with such great escape. Melody C controlled so much on that map, pushing along with waves and keeping that top shrine occupied. SPT, it looks like they learned much from how KSV handled Fnatic on this Battleground.
Yeah, and right now, SPT, I mean, yesterday they did well against Pro20. Today they play again. Fnatic has prepared for them. You could see it with the changes in their own draft, making sure that the Haka, for example, is taken away from their opponent. But as we've seen, SPT is not a one-trick pony. They have more than only one draft
and I think
they can win with.
Sorry, yeah, I think Roll20 probably has a bit of a sigh of relief as well. You know, losing to SPT yesterday. Now, Fnatic, one of the best teams in the world, is struggling with them as well.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, this is really